to another episode of Retail Media Thursdays. My name is Michelle Owen, EVP of Marketing at Skai, and today I'm excited to meet Jill Orr from Criteo. Jill, welcome to Retail Media Thursdays, fresh off the plane from the US.
Indeed, indeed.
Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Criteo? Criteo have been on the show 3 times already, so I'm sure that most people know who you are, but for anyone who might not have seen it so far.
Sure. My name is Jill Orr and I'm the head of our enterprise business here across Europe. What that means within the Criteo world, what enterprise means in the Criteo world is that I look after our retail media business. I also run the teams who look after our largest clients on the brand side and on the agency side. Outside of retail media, I also run our performance media business for our largest clients. So that's retailers and brands who are using any form of our performance media in order for them to meet their marketing goals. So it's quite comprehensive, and I think we'll probably talk a little bit about commerce media today, but my team is right in the middle of the kind of consideration of the future opportunity of commerce media when you think about that. Criteo, we're a leader in the retail media space, but we've been a leader in the performance media space for many years, and we are operating in about 100 countries today. Work with all of the key brands, retailers and advertisers globally. It's a space of the market that just keeps giving at the moment. So busy times.
Very much so. And I'm excited to talk from your kind of perspective working with the retailers and the brands. I think there's going to be some interesting insights. Before we get to that though, which pub are we in and why?
We're in the Crown and Scepter, and the reason I'm saying it slightly hesitantly is I've never been in this bar before. And why did we pick it? Because I'm doing a presentation to my whole team in about 45 minutes, so convenience. And I'm sorry, that's a terrible answer, but convenience.
No, it's the reason why we pick most of these, to be honest. There's never really a sentimental reason.
Yeah.
And your peak of the week, you said you just got back from the US, but was that the highlight?
It was pretty good. I was there while we did our Retail Media Investor Summit, which was really talking about the progress we've had today on retail media and what's happening in the future. But if I'm honest, my highlight of this week has been we just finally signed a contract with a retailer who I can't name, but is already a customer. But in the extension of our partnership with them, they are the first retailer for us here in Europe where we have signed a partnership which will be retail media and performance media, in fact, all facets of performance media, so that we can help grow their business for them as well as best serve their customer and their clients. And so in the Criteo world, there's 3 core products, and we're going to be activating all three products with them. So it's commerce media in action, so to speak. That's a terrible thing for me to say. But nonetheless, what that ultimately means for us is that we're really starting to see the difference and the change in terms of what our most important retailers are trying to achieve and how they can do that with less partners, maybe in a way that provides them to have a more integrated approach. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But that's been a highlight. And also, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m, I'm flying to Morocco for a long weekend. So I think that might end up being my highlight.
Your real highlights yet to come here. So you mentioned there, like how quick this space is changing. You're obviously connected to a lot of brands and the retailers. What are the biggest challenges that you're hearing at the moment? How is the space evolving? What are you hearing directly from them right now?
I think there's quite a lot of different challenges, and I'm quite lucky that I work across Europe. So what I would say from a retailer side, I think retailers, there's been so much hype about retail media that I think it's becoming very clear that retailers need to manage expectations very aggressively, both from a partnership perspective, but internally in terms of an organizational perspective. And so I do hear back a lot that organizationally, how you continue to evolve, plan and execute retail media continues to be a really big challenge for retailers, and there's a couple of underlying reasons for that, which again are new challenges, which if you're a retailer operating in the European market, you may have been doing retail media for 3 or 4 years, but your business has changed quite dramatically. And more importantly, the demand side has changed quite a lot. And I think that it's not kind of a one and done strategy. It's a constant evolution, which is no surprise to anyone, but we're seeing retailers take a step back and rethink about how they're doing retail media. There's been quite a lot of transition towards doing retail media in-house. There's quite a lot of retailers considering building their own tech. And I think that for a simple, maybe trade execution, that's something that is very attractive. But I think long term, in terms of fighting the third challenge, which is fragmentation, that does throw up a lot of issues. So on the journey of retail media, we're hearing that how do you manage expectations and organizationally plan and do it in the right way? Because although the promise of retail media provides a high contribution that can be utilized for other marketing activities or to build teams, running a media business there's a lot of hands on keyboards, there's a lot of people who need to be talking to the market, understanding the market, working with agencies, working with brands, measuring, building the systems and the capability that will help grow the future potential of your retail media business, not just manage the one that you've got today. And when you think of that, I think that there's where you put the profit, where you put the margin is really, really important. The European market is super fragmented. We've got over 100 retailers or retailer labels on our network. And there are many, many other retailers working with other companies other than Criteo. So the fragmentation is a real challenge. And so how do you become important in that environment? And then equally from a brand and agency side, how do you get the data that you need for the right type of planning? How do you make that make sense for your brand or or whoever's paying or wanting to achieve the marketing objective? And then how do you make that make sense in real time so you're optimizing to the right metric? Oh, and let's throw in, at commerce media, let's throw in multiple different tactics across multiple different retail media networks. So the fragmentation is a super complicated part to this. So yeah, I'm not sure I see the focus shifting. I think at its base, what I hear most consistently is in an effort to build a media business, you can't in any way muffle the importance of the retailer business and the unique proposition of the retailer. And I'm seeing some retailers do that well, but I think that's a challenge that we as tech companies and tech partners, and Skai is absolutely one of those, we need to make sure that that's enabled as retailers really lean into this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the fragmentation. Do you think there's going to be consolidation within the retail media industry as we go into 2025? I've seen a lot on LinkedIn over the last, even just this week, of all of the diagrams showing all of the retailers beyond Amazon and Walmart.
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be consolidation amongst those different retailers?
I was at an event a couple of weeks ago and they were talking about the fact that it's very difficult to shift budgets across retail media networks because the lift and shift is quite difficult on the agency side or on the brand side. So that would suggest that consolidation has to happen in some form because there's not endless budgets. Yes, there's huge growth potential, but outside of just retail media, there is media, and there is no doubt that the publishers are leaning into this opportunity. And they have many, many more years of experience in terms of driving towards performance targets or branding targets. And, they have a role to play in all of this. We partner at Criteo, we partner with a lot of publishers, and we see that there is an interest on the retail side of having direct collaborations with publishers too, and I think we should be encouraging that. So what I would say is that we've got to make sure that the efforts that we're making are driving towards reasonable outcomes that are going to show the value, and we have to keep focusing back on, are we showing value back into the people who are buying, and is that going to force consolidation? I think the way I think about it is more that partnerships are essential. I think Europe has always been underpinned by partnerships. So will it be consolidation through acquisition? Maybe. I think there will be more acquisitions in the future. I think partnerships are probably going to be as strong as the acquisition path. And I think we saw it in the ad tech world prior to it being prior to retail media being part of it. And I've been in the retail media business. I mean, my first job in retail media was back in 2013. So I've been in this.
You know this well.
Well, I don't know if I would claim to say I know it. I think that there's lots of people who've got lots of experiences in retail media, but I think there already has been a first wave of consolidation. I think the term retail media is very much stretched to commerce media now. Not always, but it has that potential. And it's too busy. If it's too difficult for the real value to be determined, then we're doing something wrong. And I think the retailers talk to us frequently about the amount of noise or the number of acronyms or the complication of knowing, in a world where you have many, many, many different choices, what is the right choice? And when it's very complicated, simple is often the answer. And so I'm starting to see, I talked a little bit about the partnership that had been a highlight of this week. Well, I'm sure that retailer could have done all of those activations with 3 or 4 different partners. Maybe it's indicative that some retailers are looking to consolidate and have less tech partners or less routes to market. I don't think we're there yet, but I do think that will emerge as a theme, but it probably won't be the only thing.
You also announced a very interesting partnership last week with Blackramp and Boots Media Group.
Yeah.
I spent the weekend with Ollie at the rugby actually on Saturday when we got talking about it.
Yeah.
I guess one of the big things there is that integration of the online and offline sales data. Big reason for the partnership and a kind of big driver for Boots to be able to show the value of the retail media network. How important is that, the coming together of kind of the brand and the retailer data? How are you seeing them aligning on that? Like, where do you think that's going in the future?
Well, I think it goes back to customer, right? So I think the never-ending challenge that we're trying to get to is starting to understand customer behaviors. And, with Boots, beauty, I hope I'm representing this correctly, and apologies, Ollie, if I'm not. But with Boots, I would say that as a consumer, as a woman who buys makeup and beauty products, if I've already experienced that product, I already know what it is, then buying that product in a digital environment is a pretty seamless process. And if I have a loyalty to that retailer, that works very, very well. I think there are many, that industry is a very busy industry. There's lots of new products coming on market, whether that's from existing brands or whether that's emerging brands. And there's an element to it which really makes sense for you to go in store and experience that product. And so it makes natural sense to me that a retailer like Boots the Chemist would want to ensure that they're able to understand how behaviours in store are translating into the digital environment and how the digital environment behaviours are translating in store. So it took a while for us to work out what was the right way for us to partner on that. And, Boots have got a long-standing relationship with LiveRamp, and it's been really good for us to establish that relationship. So I think the end game is understanding the customer journey is vital. And I think today the one thing that's consistent is there's no consistency in customer journeys. So I read somewhere the other day, and I wish I could cite it for you, but that 20-year-olds, it can take them up to 7 seconds to be introduced to a product and put it in basket to buy in safety channels, which is incredibly fast. And if I look at my children's behavior, who are both teenagers, late teens, I probably would agree with that stat. But so we need to understand how a behavior of a loyal customer over the age of 60, how that is different to the behavior of a 17-year-old who is starting to experience new brands and doesn't have the depth of history as a shopper, so to speak. So as we connect all these different data points, consumers become customers. Customers enable you to have more relevancy in terms of the products that you're putting in front of them. And then off the back of relevancy, it means that you as a retailer can have a better relationship with the brand because you're able to drive more sales. So in the end, it's about consumer data or customer data, or leveraging customer data is really just about getting to know the customer better, so that you can drive a better retail experience. So it's a natural extension. It's created a lot of excitement. I myself have had lots of incoming conversations about this, and we're already fast forwarding into the next partnership in that area. And I think it's going to be a critical part. Omnichannel is such an important part of the European retail media sector. As I said, I was just in New York and I was talking to our US retail team, and this dominated our conversation in terms of the US is starting to wake up to the importance of store. I think they've always understood the importance of store, but connecting the store with the digital environment. So I think this is just an early move by Boots the Chemist to get into the space, and I think we'll see more of it.
I couldn't agree more. It's definitely the conversation we're hearing a lot from the retailers is how we can start to bring that in-store data into the platform. So exciting. Exciting.
Yeah, no, it's good. And we're really happy that it's off the ground. And I guess the one thing I would say is, it's brand new. I am, I think, more excited about what we will learn from the bringing together of that data, because I think that provides quite a promise of maybe a smarter retail media future. So I'm kind of excited we should have this conversation 6 months' time with Ollie and find out what we've learned from it.
Yeah, we'll get you both back. We can get a special episode. You mentioned in one of your earlier answers this move from kind of retail media being seen as a channel to the concept of commerce media, and I think Criteo has really been kind of at the forefront of driving a lot of that thought leadership from the messaging. How do you see brand strategies evolving and the retailer strategies evolving in line with this shift? Is it taking time? Are they kind of in the same headspace?
Yeah, I mean, I've said before, and I think I would say this working at Criteo, the performance media to me, or retail, so let's talk about Criteo's history. Retargeting was an early form of retail media, right? If you think about it, its objective in its very early days was, how do you find customers who have expressed through their actions an interest in a particular product, and how do you remind them that that product is still there and they may not have shopped for it yet. So if you think about, I think one of the trends that's clear, and we talked a little bit about the different shopping behaviors, is there is retail here, as I call it, which is, if I take a different one of our customers, so if I'm on the Currys website, right, I am in the Currys environment and I am looking at Currys products, and I may be on the Currys app, and they have a view of me within the Currys environment. But once I go off-site, it doesn't mean that I'm not thinking about that iPad that I looked at Currys. It doesn't mean that I'm no longer interested in it. And the question is commerce media to me means, how do you capture that customer anywhere? Because, I'd say increasingly consumers are open to shopping influence in their normal life. Like they're looking at products when they're not within the retailer's environment. And so that again goes back to, how can retailers therefore better understand the full customer journey from awareness all the way through to purchase, and then how can they use that data to help brands? Because on the brand side, we have a huge amount of brands who do a DTC strategy with us. And then we have those brands also, if you think about curries, right? If you think about the many, many products, HP wants to sell brands within the HP environment, but they also want to sell HP brands in the curries retail environment. And so by nature, if you're a brand, you need to make sense of those two complementary strategies. So commerce media, you have to start thinking about the customer as a whole. And as a brand, you want to make sure that you understand that customer's, what's influencing that customer in the upper funnel. Do they have a preference for a retailer? And in which case, how do you ensure that the experience on the retail environment is as relevant to them as the experience within the HP store? And making sure that you're balancing your marketing budgets and your targeting and your execution of what you're trying to achieve, whether you are on the open web, in a social channel, or on the retailer side. So by nature, because brands think about total sales, we have to get to a point where these two things make sense and complement together. And there is a huge surge of marketplace within retail environments. And that really is also another mechanism by which we need to think about, well, where are the edges of retail media and where do we end up going to? So I think we've done a pretty good job of moving into that space as an industry and starting to realize that measurement across the whole portfolio, when we put the customer at the heart of retail media, I think that we can see that that's important. But I think we've got quite a way to go. And I go back to fragmentation. It's difficult to have consistent measurement. It's difficult to make sense of that across multiple different platforms. So certainly at Criteo, we are very, very focused on how we can make that fragmentation easier to bear. And that's whether you're a retailer trying to make an impact with new brands and new budgets, or whether you're a brand trying to decide where to put your retail media spend. So
we're very much aligned with you.
Oh yeah,
obviously big advocates for that omni-channel approach.
Well, you're a big and important partner to us in that journey. So I certainly value that side of our partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we look ahead to 2025, we're not far away now, especially by the time this gets released. What are your big predictions? What are your top bets for next year? How's the industry going to evolve?
I think that there's been a lot of development on the supply side, on the retailer side, and I think that as an industry we really need to match that development on the demand side. And so I would expect ways in which we're tackling the demand side will change. How do you automate the buying? How do you leverage AI to make the choice of media more efficient for the buyers? What we don't want is an industry that only spends money in the channels that have worked for them before, especially when we've got many, many different retailers and different brands coming into the space. So I think it's incumbent on us to make buying easier so that we can help grow and manage the industry. I also think that we'll start to see a lot more movement in curation. So the role of the publisher or the open web, I think, will continue to grow. And there's been some great partnerships, but how do we make sure that those partnerships work, especially as the wheels continue to turn on the publisher side? I think they're doing a lot of innovation, and there are lots of companies that have done brilliant work on that side of the industry that will come in more to kind of the commerce media, retail media side. And I think we are all really accountable for how we make planning real-time measurement so that campaigns can be optimized to whatever the measurement it is that they need to be optimized to, and then how we can look at the right types of measurements. So, ROAS is the reason that ROAS is so popular is because ROAS is something that we can all measure. Yeah. But ROAS is the idea that a consumer only buys because they've seen an advert is a little limiting, I think, for the industry. So how do we standardize around the other measurements? How do we consider the different behaviors, both on a retail side, but also on a customer side for the more emerging verticals within retail media. So we're dominated by the thinking and the influence of CPG, which has been really positive for the industry. But if I think about, when I go back to my terrible example, which is always like, if I'm going to buy a handbag, crazy example, or I'm going to buy a new computer, my buying cycle is incredibly different and than it is if I'm going to do my weekly shop. So how do we get different signals? How do we understand the importance of different measurements across that customer journey? And how do we make that standards across the industry? And I think that the IAB and other bodies have done a brilliant job in pushing us towards standardization, but I think that the market is really adapting. CPG is by far the biggest sector, but we're seeing a lot of activity in the other sectors. And so how do we make the measurements and the underpinning parts of retail media take into account different ways of looking at how customers behave, so that we can make that more flexible and more adjustable to the different marketing objectives. I think that's going to, we've come a long way in 2024. I think 2025 will see some exciting areas there. And then every retailer we talk to is talking about screens, digital screens in the end caps, digital monitors on the trolleys, in-store screens, near screens in terms of the retail environment. So there's a huge amount of investment that's happened this year. So where does that start to make an impact on the market? And I think we'll see some innovation and some exciting announcements in that space in 2025.
Yeah, there's a lot of at one of the events I was at a couple of weeks ago, some really cool in-store innovation coming down the line. So I'm excited to, even as a consumer, to go in and see it. You're spotting it more and more when you go into these retail environments. So we're getting close to Christmas.
Okay.
We've got our quick-fire round. I'm going to do a Christmas special. So, we've had a big debate about this question in the office this morning. You're only allowed 3 things on your plate for your Christmas dinner. What would they be? And this includes the sauces as well and gravy.
This is a good question, right? Yeah. So it kind of depends what your Christmas dinner is. But if I go traditional, every single one of them would be a vegetable.
Oh.
So, and
no gravy.
I was about to say, and then I'm from Yorkshire, so one of them would have to be gravy.
I was going to say, I was northern, it's like our gravy.
So it would be 2 vegetables and gravy. Do you need me to be specific about the vegetables? Yeah. Oh my God. Well, it depends, right? So it's Christmas. I'm going to say roast potatoes and a vegetable that is green and some gravy. And honestly, I would be happy.
Yeah, mine was a roast potato and a pig in blanket.
Oh, you see, right, yeah.
And then gravy, obviously, because I'm northern too.
For me, the vegetables make it, so.
Favourite Christmas song?
Oh God, now you're pushing me. I think it would, I love A Carol in the Morning. And then I think it's non-conventional Christmas songs in the afternoon. So a favourite Christmas song, I think, you're pushing me. I would say Jingle Bells. It's really boring, but I think it is.
Because it's a classic.
You know what it is that last year I went to a Christmas market and on the bus on the way back, it was in a town close to where I was staying, not in London. And on the way back, the bus turned all the lights red and played Christmas carols. And my overriding memory is of Jingle Bells and everybody singing along. So there is a good reason for that.
Yeah, sentimental reason. Your favourite Christmas film?
Oh, The Holiday.
Oh, yeah. I actually used to work in the town where that was filmed.
Really?
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah, very really pretty.
But your worst ever Christmas present, can you remember?
Yes, I can. I don't know if I want to tell you. He's going to kill me for this. I told my husband that I really like this new beauty brand. And being a forward planner, on Christmas Eve, he went out to get me some products from this beauty brand. and he ended up buying me what effectively was, because this beauty brand had like kind of like very funky names, right? And he ended up buying me spot cream and fat cream. And he gave me them because he thought they was really exciting, because he'd got me some products for this beauty brand and hadn't really read the label. So I think they would definitely be my worth.
I'm not surprised. My dad once bought my mum a frying pan and she like hit him over the head with it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the worst.
When does your tree go up?
Oh, well, it used to go up on December the 1st because I've always been a bit of a Christmas fan, but in reality, I think last year we managed it on about the 15th of December, so anywhere in the first half of December.
And is it real or artificial?
So about 4 years ago, we went artificial.
I had this year.
Yeah.
It's easier.
And I have to say that both my sons and I are detractors on the artificial. But I think environmental concerns made us go do it. So yeah.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas when we get there in a few weeks.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for your partnership and joining the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jill.